Empowered by a multi-level system of support and guided by culturally responsive practices, Wisconsin's vision for RTI integrates three essential elements: high-quality instruction, balanced assessment, and collaboration. This RTI story focuses on collaboration as it's implemented in the school district of Beloit. Beloit uses collaborative protocols to identify and provide supports to students to increase their academic and behavioral success through data-based decision-making.
Using RTI as a framework for moving our mission, vision, and goals forward, it really has been most successful because of collaboration and working together in different types of professional learning communities.
So it'll be really interesting to see.
Principals create time for entire grade levels during their common prep time or before school or after school to come together as a grade level and discuss student data and student needs on a weekly to a monthly basis.
One of these professional learning communities, or PLCs, is the grade group, where teachers of the same grade can collaborate on student learning. In this meeting, two fourth grade teachers, one veteran and one new to the classroom, are working on math strategies.
The reason that we're focusing on math in our grade group meetings would be because we have seen a slight depression in scores of our state testing scores. It's definitely an area that we need higher achievement in. I had worked in an isolated situation where it was just me as a fourth grade teacher, and I tried my best, but I know if I would have had someone to work with and someone to share duties with and to get ideas from, that I would have done much better as a professional. This collaboration time has given us the opportunity to come up with activities to extend the students that are already understanding and to really come up with what can we do for these kids that just are not understanding it.
Well, and even she got this part right, which is really difficult for the kids.
Mm-hmm. As a first-year teacher, grade groups have been very important to me because it helps me to be able to collaborate with someone and see what's worked in the past and then be able to bring some of the ideas that I just learned and kind of put them together.
And then we go from there and see who's at the top and who's at the bottom and who needs the work in between.
We talk about an ebb and flow of information and people working together. So everything from small group work at a building site to then maybe a school team and then to the district level team.
What is it that we want our students to be learning right now?
This district-wide PLC brings all of Beloit's fourth grade teachers together to analyze data to improve their classroom practices and to drive the school improvement process.
But how else will you know that the students know the material? And how you're going to respond if they don't know it? What are you going to do about it? You can come up with ideas to help each other.
I have them make flashcards with the fraction, the picture on one side, the fraction on the other. And then they can use this to play like the war game, who has the biggest fraction.
And Dad always divides, Mom always multiplies.
Collaboration is something that really has to be systematized to make it work. It has to be a priority. It has to have that sacred time, and you have to give people the opportunity and a process to make that collaboration happen.
At McClinigan Elementary, the school principal and an outside consultant joined with several teachers in a lesson study group to both analyze and refine a second grade math lesson.
Okay, we are in the middle of our lesson study process.
Lesson study is a form of professional development. In lesson study, a group of teachers work together, they collaborate to plan a lesson.
How many bundles of 10 would I need?
Teach the lesson and observe the lesson, and then they meet afterwards to analyze and revise the lesson. And most of the time they go back and reteach the lesson. Lesson study originated in Japan and it has been brought to the United States. The main goal of the lesson study team is to collaborate, for teachers to collaborate to plan a lesson. So the emphasis of a lesson that's planned by a lesson study team is not on evaluating the teacher.
How many dimes?
But planning a lesson so that they can understand what the students are thinking and how the students are responding to the lesson.
And can you count it? I've been able to take a step back and look at what I'm doing in a different way. I am noticing things that I didn't realize I was doing. Okay, so count this for me. This is...
We worked together to develop a lesson that would fit into a unit to meet the needs of students to be able to say, I can find and discover a pattern.
This is what's called a math I can statement. Why don't you read that with me? I can find a pattern to discover a rule. So I want you to keep that in the back of your mind because that's what we're going to be learning today. So I
think the biggest challenge is time. It's taken us a lot of time outside of our classroom to do the collaboration that we need to do. This is a team that we created here, and it's actually across grade levels, first grade, second grade, and third grade. We videotaped both lessons so we can compare them. So we focus on the kids because the whole purpose of the lesson study is what the children are able to know and do by the end of the lesson. So the biggest thing that I've walked away from lesson study is the smallest change can make the biggest difference. This afternoon, we'll think about some more of those.
The teachers have an opportunity to collaborate about a lesson, and it's all about the learning of the students.
And you're going to find a rule.
So it fits right in with our RtI in that we're looking for the students, obviously, who are learning what we want them to learn.
Put the 8 down.
And those students who are not, and what are we going to do for the students who have not? What do we need to do to expand the learning for them? We're really systemizing our process of the RtI, and through that, the PLCs, using DeFore's model of the 4 questions. And so through this lesson study, it gets right at the core of those 4 questions. Yet it gives the teachers the opportunity to collaborate. They get to observe each other, they get to observe the results of the lesson, and then they get to review and revise it too, which is not often what we get to do in education.
One of the most exciting things that we have had come from utilizing RtI as a framework is it provides evidence to you. There's data to substantiate the work you are doing, whether it's working or not. At the building level, we talk about RtI non-negotiables in our district, or definite requirements. There's a time at every building, at least a half a day every week, for student intervention teams to meet and discuss data.
The principal has decided to set a day aside where all of her teachers are coming in for a sit meeting. He has received a 99 percentile in the reading on the MAPS test in both winter and spring of 2010. I do notice he's very, very quiet. And you have to, do you see that too?
Oh, yes.
And I talked to Evelyn too, and he's very, he has to be drawn out a little bit. So that's one of the things I'd like to work on with him. Open your books to page 184. I'm very excited about RtI and the SIT process because not only are they looking at the needs of our lower ability kids,
After a while, crocodile.
but it's built into the model that they also need to address the needs of our higher ability kids.
You gotta do hard stuff, and if you get it right, you'll be a really smart student.
Some of the questions they ask are what needs to be taught, how are you going to teach it, how are you going to make sure they know it, and what are you going to do if they already know it, where I come in and say, well, I can help you with that. We're going to do some brainstorming, so we want to make sure we're deepening his understanding.
I can find some information and give that to you depending on if it's a fiction or nonfiction text and things like that. This year, Beloit has a reading specialist in every elementary and middle and high school, and our role is to provide Tier 3 interventions for students, whether it be level literacy intervention or some other program. The SIT process has really streamlined how we talk about students. We come with information prepared. We can meet the individual needs, kind of have a brainstorming session, if you will, where the teacher shares what they've been doing in the classroom, what has been working, what's maybe not working. So in that sense, we're really able to kind of narrow in on the specific needs of individual students.
Any day of the week work better for someone?
Just as they can help meet the needs of children with gifts and talents, SIT meetings can also address issues that negatively affect learning. Devin's kindergarten teacher is concerned that his behavior is interfering with his academic success.
He really struggles academically, and he got really, really frustrated.
Oh, you can't give her a clue.
In the middle of the morning, things did not start to go very well, and they started to slip a little bit, and we tried to give him lots of extra encouragement. And then in the afternoon, he had a really hard time.
It used to be in the past that we would have to wait for the student to be identified first before we could do the interventions. Now we can test the interventions in the classroom and see how successful the student is with those interventions before we identify them.
You be flat. If I could always say that's going to happen, it would be easier to do some more programming for him.
I like the fact that I'm able to speak as a professional in my field of special ed to teachers outside of special ed, and when I'm talking about accommodations and interventions, my expertise. So I feel more of a part of the school district and the school.
I think that it's had a tremendous impact on the instruction. Our staff is very small, and we're a single section school. I think it's just an invaluable tool for our students to benefit from. So I attend every SIT meeting. Nothing in my calendar pulls me away from Wednesday morning. We've been building in-services and meetings with the staff to make sure that they are on board and really understand exactly what it is that we're doing with SIT.
He's making some progress from the beginning of the year, but he really struggles academically.
And then classroom teachers are provided a sub. We bring in a floating sub, and then that sub goes around and covers the classrooms of the teachers that we need to meet with. So it really has driven home that point of how data drives instruction. I think that the little boy that we talked about earlier today, kindergartner, who came in at the beginning of the year, incredibly needy. And there were just a host of home problems and so forth.
We should also revisit the data gathering in 4 weeks. So we're talking more of a second tier of intervention, a tier 2.
Because he does have academic concerns too. So we're talking the emotional and the academic concerns. They're both there for him.
We're going to kind of review what we found out since our last meeting. It looks like on the 8th of December.
Today when we looked at his behavior data, he is meeting his behavior goal almost at 100%. And so he is, I think, probably one of our greatest success stories that everybody is, really excited about.
And how did you do?
Good.
You did great. And you worked really hard all day. He's really been doing very well. December was a good month for him.
What a change. What a nice change.
Yeah, you should just be proud.
I am proud of him.
Proud kindergarten teacher.
Very proud of him.
This is not the same child that we were talking about 2 months ago. It just isn't.
Our district administration and principals as well have worked very hard to go out and listen and hear what the needs of the staff are and what the needs of the children are.
What I think about the stations that it's fun, creative. You actually can learn a lot of things.
One unique example of collaboration in the school district of Beloit brought a high school math teacher as an observer into a third grade classroom. With help from the district's math coach, the concept of stations was studied as a valuable technique for differentiation that could also be used effectively at much higher grade levels.
So, what's your overall impression of what you saw?
It was really interesting. I hadn't seen stations like that probably since I was in elementary school. And coming from a high school class where I have a lot of students who are really struggling, I got a lot more ideas from this than I had expected.
So it is important that you follow rule number 1.
When the teachers spent a good amount of time before the class started on rules and on the stations and on what to do, that was really helpful for the students. So I think it helped the class to run much more smoothly. Even if they're just the slightest bit confused, they won't get as far and they'll spend more time figuring out what to do as opposed to how to do it.
Right.
I'm going to go through this quickly, remind you of the rules to follow, and then have you get started. First of all, I need everyone working the entire time until you're done and have handed in your work.
Back at Beloit High School, Ariel arranged her classroom so the students could work in small groups, patterned after the stations in the third grade class she had observed.
In this class, we get to work together.
I like to work with people, not just by myself.
And I may get stuck in some problems and they might help you.
See if they can help you out with this, okay?
It makes it a lot easier. She words things out differently.
That's correct, okay? So, Taylor, can you show Malika how you got that far?
How comfortable are you with continuing to do something like this?
Well, after going to see the elementary schools, I'm a lot more comfortable. I think seeing it put into action makes the difference. I'm gaining a lot of comfort, and I think as I continue to implement it, my comfort level will increase.
It is our job to go out and follow up on how that's working, and not necessarily to make sure everybody is doing it the same. That's absolutely not the case. But just that the main goals and the main idea of children learning is always first and foremost. We have seen evidence in more than one data source. Our WKCE scores, our state assessment, is improving at not only grade levels, but we are tracking cohorts of children from year to year to see that their percentages of proficient and advanced students are increasing as we go through the years. And then we also utilize the NWEA MAP data. And it was very exciting this year to take some time to look at the norms that NWEA has set for different children, different grade levels at different points in the year, and to see where our children were at and to see how rapidly that their learning is growing. The response to intervention plus professional learning communities equals success.